What is up, everybody? Hey! Sleepy time. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 110. Very exciting show tonight. Also very chill, shortened, sleep-deprived, lack of energy sort of show. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Kim and I were crewing at the Barkley Marathons this last weekend for Gary Robbins. A lot to talk about there. This is going to be part one of the discussion of the Barkley Marathons. I feel like part two is going to involve actual participants who are at this point most likely sleeping outside of any sort of cell signal, Wi-Fi, any sort of connection. It's basically been 7 days of that. So we're back to civilization, but not everybody is. So we're going to do part two next week or in a future week. But this will be part one, just kind of our experience crewing at the Barkley Marathons and talking a bit about the experience and the race itself and stuff behind that. So welcome everybody to Ginger Runner Live episode number 110. Grab your beverage of choice. Happy Tuesday, and let's get this show started. Oh, and Kim's got a chair. Ginger Runner. Yay! Yay! Oh my God, I knew that was going to happen. Welcome, guys and gals. Happy Tuesday. Welcome, family. Normally this show happens on Mondays, but because of the fact that both Kim and myself were well outside of any range of Wi-Fi, cell signal, any contact really with the outside world, we had no ability to do a Monday night show. Absolutely impossible. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to cancel it. I haven't done that for years. So moving it to Tuesday, I felt was the easiest solution. And there are a lot of you here tonight watching. So that is a very good thing, being able to switch just the day. And you guys still are like, yeah, we're still going to watch it. So thank you very much for tuning in live tonight. A lot to talk about. Before we get to all the Barkley Marathons talk and what it was like to crew and to spectate and to kind of be a part of that experience, we have to give shout outs because a lot happened this weekend. We're still catching up. I'm Ethan, by the way.
Hi, Ethan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Kim. That's so weird.
It was like an
Ethan.
It was an
by the way.
Well, because I realized that I had been talking and I didn't even you are never here with me, which is like we need to change that. You need to be on the show more often, especially if it's just me talking. You need to be here because you're normally in the chat room.
I'm normally on the other side of this wall.
Away. There's just so little room in this room that there's not a lot of room.
It's already getting hot in here.
It is already getting hot in here. It's that small. This is Kim, aka Mile Long Legs.
Hi, guys.
You're normally in the chat room.
Every Monday.
But tonight you're actually in the room.
And everybody's excited that I have a chair. But one of the very first comments was, are you guys sharing the cooler tonight?
Yeah, we're sitting on the cooler. The room is too small for a chair, 2 chairs side by side. So we're sitting on a cooler. That's also why the framing is a bit lower and why we might look a little smaller. Okay.
All right.
So to start things off, huge congratulations to a lot of people out there in the ultra world. Some big stuff happened this weekend outside of Tennessee. We are getting caught up and stuff like that. So in the chat room, let us know if we're forgetting maybe an event or something that happened this weekend. I know I just saw at the beginning there, I think Phil LaCroix ran your first 50K this weekend. That's amazing. Congratulations to you. If any of you guys watching live finished or completed something this weekend, first long run, first race, first 50K, first marathon, or your 100th marathon, congratulations to you. We on this show always like to cheers athletes of all levels, all abilities, experience levels, and everything. So cheers to you. I haven't even taken a drink yet.
I'm like half a can in. That's not true.
I'm like, we don't even know. Oh God, we'll get to this. Okay, so the congratulations, Rui Ueda, Chris Moko, the 2 male winners from the Gorge 100K. I'm probably pronouncing their names wrong. Golden tickets to Western States 100. Congratulations to you, gents, and to Jody Adams-Moore and Amanda Basham, the 2 female winners of the Gorge 100K, also get golden tickets to the Western States 100 endurance run. We've had guests that have won those golden tickets on the show in the past, so hopefully we can get them on the show in the coming weeks as well to talk about it, because the Gorge 100K is a race that is both special to Kim and I. Well, Gorge 50K, neither of us have run the 100K, but we've been out there for the 100K for multiple years, crewing, spectating, filming, and all that stuff. So we're very aware of that course, and it is incredible. Very difficult, but spectacular. So congratulations to the 4 of you. We'll see you in Squaw. Also wanted to shout out other guests of the show, Chris Vargo and Alicia Shea.
Who's also my coach. Who's
also your coach. Fantastic wins. Their first races of the year at the Crown King Scramble. Huge congrats to those 2 guys.
It's so great to see them out there.
So awesome.
Guy and gal.
Yeah, I was like, those 2 guys, those 2 gentlemen. Way to go, Alicia.
So great to see them back out there racing and just winning stuff.
We just had them on the show like a couple weeks ago talking about how they were really excited to get back into it. And man, did they make a splash. Why not just go win and set course records? Why not? So this is going to be a pretty incredible year for them. I cannot wait to see what they do. So congratulations to them. The Crown King Scramble is an Aravaipa. Here's my big segue. This is the big segue. Crown King Scramble is an Aravaipa running race. Aravaipa running, also owned by Jameel Curry, who's been a frequent guest of the show. Jameel Curry, a year ago, was on the show to talk about his experience at the Barkley Marathons. This is a race that I have known about for a number of years. Just being in the ultra world, there's kind of those circles where you talk about it, but you don't know anything about it. It's this race that's just impossible. It's dumb. Really weird people do it because it is just that hard. It is kind of the unspoken hardest race in the world. Nearly impossible to complete. Gets harder every year on purpose. And there's very little in the way of how to register for it, what the course looks like. There is no map. There's no course profile. There's no set distance.
You won't find it on Ultra Sign Up. You won't find any kind of GPS tracking on Strava for it. There's next to no info.
I mean, even the runners have no info, very little info, only intel that they themselves have either inherited or learned from previous years. So Jameel was on the show to talk about his experience at the Barkley Marathons last year. And during that show, you can go back and watch it. The discussion popped up of like, yeah, man, you got to come back with me next year. Jameel was going to come back this year. And I was like, yeah, this is something that I've been wanting to do since I've heard about it, not run it. But to be there and see it, because it's kind of one of those things you hear about and you don't believe is real. And
you also think that you'll never actually see it with your own 2 eyes in person.
Yeah.
Like few people are actually there, either running or crewing.
So Jameel brought up the conversation of coming out this year to crew Jameel. And so for the last year, we've been planning it. And unfortunately, he had to pull out of the race at the last minute, which is a real bummer. So we weren't able to get Jameel down there. And last year he completed 3 loops, the fun run. We'll talk maybe a little bit more about that later. But on the 4th loop, I believe he slept for 22 hours on that 4th loop.
He was out there for 22 hours?
I think he was out there for 22 hours, slept maybe 10 of them. I have to go back and watch the episode. Regardless, Jameel might even be watching and pop into the chat room tonight, but insane experience. So his goal was to come back and wrap up that 5th loop. It's unfinished business for him. So the whole goal was to go down with him. Unfortunately, he had to pull out. But another mutual friend of ours, Gary Robbins, was going. And Gary's like, I need crew. I need you guys. Get your ass to Tennessee. And we were kind of hesitant, like, is this something that should we do this? Should we go to Tennessee and try to be a part of this race? Is it bad for people to just go there and do this? And in the last few weeks, it's been a huge deal with the Netflix doc. The documentary has actually been out for quite a while, but it's been on Netflix very recently. And so now, I mean, literally everyone and their mom has now seen this documentary on Netflix.
Literally, my mom was texting me throughout the race. I love you, Mom.
Hey, what part of the movie are you at now in real life? That kind of thing. I have been getting texts and messages on Facebook and also all sorts of social media of like, hey, you got to go check out this race. Check out this thing. you should go run one of those marathons. And in my mind, I'm going, a lot of people know about this now. A lot of people. So it's kind of been on that radar of now everyone knows about it. Is that a bad thing? Do we go? But
yeah, because it kind of almost feels like a respect thing for the race, that you don't want to overcrowd it or over
publicize
social media publicize it
completely.
So I think for us the decision was a little bit easier because it was
Gary.
Our good friends Gary and Linda who were asking us to come along and actually help them out. I think that was the part of the deciding factor for us to actually, you know.
If it was Jamil asking, we would do it. If it's Gary asking, I mean, Gary and Linda are two of our favorite people on the planet. Gary is an incredible athlete. Linda's also an incredible athlete. Some of you may have seen Wonderland, the film that myself and Jeff Peltier collaborated on, documenting Gary Robbins' run FKT around Mount Rainier last year. After that, it was pretty obvious that this guy is an incredible athlete. Gary is just an incredible athlete. But aside from that, he's just an awesome guy. He's so kind and thoughtful and heartwarming and like caring. He has helped me through my ultra journey since year one. The first year I did the Squamish 50 miler. Talking to him before and after that race, and him embracing the ginger runner, like he knew what I was trying to do in the very early stages of this YouTube channel. He's like, I get what you're doing, man. I love what you're doing. What can I do to help you? Like, it's always been about him trying to figure out how he can help other people. And it's always that way. His races are incredible. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this guy. So when he asked you to come and crew him at one of the most difficult races on earth on purpose, like the race is purposefully impossible, you just say yes. So we worked it out. We worked out budgets, and I have to give a big shout out to Seven Hills Running as well. Seven Hills is going to help with the film, because we'll get to that in a little bit. But Phil over at Seven Hills has just been an incredible support. So he's also participating a little bit on the back end to help pay for travel costs and stuff like that for us. So I have to give him a shout out and a big thank you, because it was not a cheap trip. No. By any means. Okay, so the crew consisted of Gary.
Was Gary there?
Gary was the runner, I think.
Okay.
His wife, Linda, their son, Reed. Gary's really fantastic, great friend from years ago. I think since childhood. I forget, Sean, what Sean said.
School age, something like
since babies. And just so happens...
Pre-beard.
Pre-beard. Pre-Gary Beard. Very good point. They grew up in Newfoundland together, but lives in Kentucky now, Louisville, and just so happened to kind of be in that general area and was like, hey, listen, I would love to come down and help as well. Sean Martin, one of Gary's closest friends, and we're going to see if we can get him on the show tonight. I emailed him, and he just emailed me back, so let's see if he can jump on. He will not be able to come on. It looks like he's trying to work simultaneously, because we'll talk a bit about his schedule and stuff like that too. So so Sean, Linda, Reed, their son, Gary, Kimberly, myself, and Matt Trappy, which I was so excited to hear about. Matt Trappy joined also last minute as a photographer, but also crew, working with Strava, and there's going to be he's just an incredible photographer, and there's going to be a really like some of the pictures he's already posted, I think, one to Instagram, but some of the photos he took this weekend are just insane. There's going to be a Strava story, one of those wonderful blogs that's just all these beautiful photos, and we're working with them on that as well. But that's pretty much the crew, like stellar crew. So we planned to travel down. So Kim and I, when did our flight leave?
Let's talk about Wednesday, our travel.
Thursday.
We left on Thursday. Man. Early afternoon, like 11 o'clock, I think, on Thursday from LAX. Yeah. Traveled LAX to Nashville, so that was a plus 2-hour time change.
Nashville's 2 hours ahead. We rented a car.
We didn't sleep the night before because we were up packing camera equipment and camping gear. And
I mean, yeah, because you're. It's one thing to go to a race destination and like, oh, I'm going to check into the hotel and be able to stay in blah 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 town. We were planning on like maybe getting a hotel at some point, but camping. So,
right. So when you have to travel and fly and pack for camping,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough because you just need to figure out what to bring, plus all the camera equipment, plus crewing equipment, and we didn't want to have to buy too much there and stuff like that. So we land in Nashville at the same time that apparently some of the worst storms in the last couple of weeks decided to roll in too. We landed around the exact same time that thunderstorms, hailstorms, tornado warnings, basically every bad weather that we have not had to drive in California for months or even what.
I feel like some of that weather we don't really get over here.
No, I don't really get that. Basically we landed in an apocalypse. Rented our little car. This is the best part.
At the rental car counter, we're like, "Is it true that there's going to be some, pretty hefty storms rolling through here tonight?" And she goes, "Yeah, there's like tornado warnings and thunder and lightning. Which direction are you guys headed in?" And we tell her, and she goes, "The storm's actually going to be following along your path.
You guys are, you're going with the storm.
You're going with the storm.
Let me upgrade you guys to a stronger car.
I'll give you guys a bigger, heavier car so you don't get blown off the road."
It's like, oh, we're in that country now. We're in the country where cars can get blown over. She gave us a shoebox, a tiny micro bean car, a Chevrolet. What was it called? Scooter? A Chevrolet. Sonic. Google an image of one. They are micro. They have 4 doors. I don't know how, but there is no trunk. The trunk is about that big. The engine's about that big. It was a roller skate. We walked up to it. It was in between a bunch of Jeeps.
Oh, was it a Spark?
No, I think the Spark's the electric, like a small electric one. It was a Sonic. Yeah, Chevy Segway. That's exactly what it was. It was so small. We laughed out loud.
It was literally the smallest car on the entire floor of rental cars. The smallest car.
Thank you, rental lady. That was a joke. She did that on purpose. She totally did that on purpose. So we hop in the car and we start driving, and within 30 minutes, it's about a 2.5-hour drive east to get to the campground. Unbelievable storms rolled in. It was now dark, so there was no light on the roads. Not many cars either, because we're kind of driving more isolated freeways and stuff. White knuckle driving. I'm getting just super stressed out, like trying to figure out where I am. I have no bearings if roads are going to get washed out because there's flash flood warnings everywhere too. I have no idea if there's rivers on either side of me.
We don't know what it looks like.
We don't know where we are.
Pitch black.
It's the middle of Tennessee, which we have never been there. So we end up getting, after 2 hours of just this, eyes just peeled back with toothpicks sticking in them. Kim's like, "There's a Walmart in this town. Let's just go get our groceries and like some of our camping stuff," which we had planned on doing anyways, just getting some like cheap basics that we didn't have to fly with. We get to the Walmart, and as we park, the wind is just howling, and the rain, like the thunder and lightning is on us. It was lightning crack of thunder, just shook everything. Those of you in the South or Southeast or in Tennessee, they're laughing. "Hey, welcome,
that's
spring."
Just a Friday.
That's nothing to us. I get it. You guys have some crazy ass weather, and it lasts a very short amount of time. But we get into Walmart, we get all of our stuff, we get out to the car, we just go, we can't drive because the next stretch is about an hour of windy, single, curvy roads. We don't even know if the campground is open. By this point, Gary and Linda are asleep.
We don't want to wake them up.
We do not want to wake Gary up the day before the race. So we end up sleeping in the Walmart parking lot, which we thought was illegal, but apparently
it's encouraged.
Walmart encourages it. Walmart, open 24 hours, encourages people to camp out in the parking lots. They want it to be like a truck stop where you go in throughout all hours of the night to get those things that you might need. I'm like, that's brilliant.
And what did we get to watch for entertainment?
Oh, shopping carts getting blown by the wind in the parking lot.
Shopping carts going like, I don't know,
10 miles, 15 miles per hour.
Racing.
Yeah, racing.
Blowing around.
Taking bets. It's going to hit the Mustang. Mustang door gone. That's $15.
So we had a cheese platter.
Yeah, the cheese platter.
We had pillows, and we had towels for blankets.
Slept nothing. We didn't sleep. Just didn't sleep. So that's night 1 of no sleep. But we are not going to complain. By the way, we are not complaining about a single second of this weekend. we're just sharing what happened with us and what happened at the race with as little detail as possible, just purely because out of respect to the race itself. But it was incredible. The weekend was incredible. So we do not complain a second. This was night one of sleeplessness. We get into camp the next morning fairly early. But before we even roll into camp, this was, so I have been communicating with Lazarus Lake, for the race director, Gary Cantrell, for probably the 2 weeks before, about filming Gary's day. It's not a single day race. It's a multi-day race, and got his blessing to film. So Laz was in favor of doing this, and he's a big advocate for, sharing Gary's story. He was basically got Laz's blessing, which I needed. I wasn't about to bring a camera, equipment. I wasn't about to do anything social, media-wise, or anything without Laz's approval. So once that was obtained, he sent me another email. This is the first time that I've met this man. I know I've seen the Netflix doc. I've seen other videos. I've seen other stories. I've heard other stories about this guy. He is exactly how you'd expect, but also the nicest, kindest guy that was giving every single person as much time as they needed. He was awesome. And the stories are endless.
Yeah, I was going to say that prior to meeting him, I was a little bit, I felt a little intimidated, I think, just based on his persona on the film. You kind of are like, this man probably doesn't want me coming up and talking to him or bothering him. But he really was the sweetest man that just, I think I mentioned it to you. One of the first things I noticed with him is just the eye contact and the willing just to share a story with you. And he didn't care who you were, really.
Didn't care. Yeah. So in the emails back and forth, he mentioned meet at Hardy's 0700 Friday morning. I didn't really know why, other than there was a prison tour on the schedule. So at 7 a.m. on Friday morning, we had arrived Thursday. We spent the night in Walmart's parking lot. We basically had to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning to get, because the time difference between Walmart and where Hardy's is another hour. There's a border. So we had to do that. Math is terrible. So we had to get up super early to get to him on time. And what he was doing was a media tour. What I didn't realize also was that this year, I guess we could have easily anticipated this, was a larger number of media being at the race than any year previous. Obviously, because of the documentary.
I anticipated there was going to be some media.
Absolutely.
But
cameras, photographers.
My mind was blown.
We'll get to a bit of it here in a bit, but in Hardy's parking lot, there were European journalists, film crew. There were Australian journalists and film crew. There were United States journalists and film crews from all different outlets. It was a surprise to see so many people. So Laz, being gracious and completely open and nice and humble, took all of us to the prison. We basically caravaned to the prison. I want to say Boney Mountain. It's not Boney Mountain. It's Brushy Mountain. Yeah, I'm super tired. The original Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, which during the race they go through the tunnel. It's in the documentary. I'm not giving anything away that's not already public, but there is a tunnel underneath the prison that the runners go through to retrieve a page from a book. There are numerous books scattered throughout the course that the runners have to collect pages from based off of what the number is that they have on their shorts. I'm going to brush past a lot of that kind of stuff, I think, tonight. A lot of the specifics of what runners have to do, because that's all out there. If you go watch the Netflix documentary, if you have Netflix, it does a fantastic job of telling you a bit about the history of the race, what the runners have to do, and outlining a lot of that specific stuff. So I'm not reiterating and spending time reiterating that stuff to you guys. So we basically got a fantastic tour of this prison. And we got to see Laz place a book. He was very open about the book and where it was. And I feel like that location is
It's well
pretty
known.
well known. Yeah, it's not hidden really, but you can't access that prison because it is closed off to the public. But we got private access.
Yeah, everything is all locked up, gated.
Yeah, it was really pretty crazy for us to be there. I was under the impression that there was just going to be a full lock off of publicity or the ability to film or document certain parts of the course is completely off limits. That is a rule that is put out there long before the documentary came out. All that kind of stuff. There's very little permission given to anybody to get out into the course. Even the runners can't go out and do recon because it's all off limits. It's just kind of part of that code, part of that unspoken law of Barkley, I guess. But in this case, I was really kind of blown away that we had access to this prison. He was walking us around, guiding us through the cells and the cell blocks. And
yeah, I didn't realize we were actually going to get to go in.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the lady's name that was actually kind of giving us the tour, but she was
very nice,
super sweet, and she had some incredible, terrifying, haunting stories.
Yeah, it's a crazy place.
I don't really do like haunted places or anything like that, but when we walked in there was like that feeling.
Yeah. Thanks, Raul. I do look tired. I just saw his comment. Ethan looks tired. Yeah, we haven't slept for 6 or 7 days. I think that's safe to say we're pretty tired. And I just don't normally look beautiful like him. So yeah, you're getting me at my worst. You saw the picture I posted to Instagram today. That's my favorite thing ever. So yeah, we got like unorthodox access to this prison. All the journalists got around, and some of them were just like going off on their own to places like locked off. And you in my mind, I'm going, what are these people doing? Like, there's a bar across that door, and you just opened it and went into a I don't know.
All sorts of things.
All sorts of shenanigans were going down there, but it was really cool to talk to Laz and kind of hear the stories because he knows a lot of them from there. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Very cool, special place. So we got to do that, which is really, really cool. The Fall Classic, the Barkley. Oh, it's not called the Barkley Fall Classic, but Laz directs another race in the fall that is a 50K that runs through Frozen Head State Park. It's all on trails that are flagged, so it's a course that is well marked. It's not like you're going off trail or anything like that. So it shows you Frozen Head State Park. It actually takes you into the prison where we were, and you have to get your bib punched in the hole, which is pretty fucking awesome. We have seriously considered just doing that race since he mentioned it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever right here.
Since he like walked me into the hole, that made me
a dungeon, a room with no windows,
so
no sound,
like,
nothing.
If you don't know prison terms, like I know prison terms. Oh, the hole is like where they would send prisoners to punish them. So they would go into this like tiny, tiny room that was pitch black, and they would put them in there for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
They'd essentially give them 2 buckets, one with water and one for bathroom privileges.
Yeah.
And they would be in there for. So you said you have to go into the hole and get your bib punched. This is for the Fall Classic.
Yeah,
not
Fall
for
Classic.
Barkley.
Yeah. I think it's Jen says the baby Barkley. I would call this like the fetus Barkley, or
it's the micro baby
Barkley,
puppy Barkley,
because it is on sanctioned trails, which we got to enjoy a little bit on Saturday.
It's marked. It's on
marked.
Sanctioned trails.
It's only 50K. The fact that you like have to say that it's only 50K, I can imagine it's very difficult, but I can also imagine it is nothing compared to the Barkley Marathons, which is what we're going to get to here.
To answer Phil LaCroix's question, we're both drinking Sufferfest. I think Ethan's drinking the IPA and I have the pills.
Yeah, it's very, very good stuff. Gluten-free.
Yeah.
But it tastes like real beer. It's really good. Okay, so we finished with the prison. Then we finally get to camp. We see Gary. We see Linda. We see Reed. We see Trappy, who was also with us at the prison. It was just really great to reconnect with everybody. It was also very obvious that Gary was pretty anxious, as he is before a race. At this point, on Friday, again, I'm just reiterating what's already known. The race start is not known by anybody other than Laz, and I'm guessing Laz's close group of friends and other like helpers, essentially. The race can start anywhere between 11 p.m. on Friday and 11 a.m. on Saturday. Well, I'm sorry, the conch can be blown 11 p.m. Friday to 11 a.m. Saturday. The conch being blown basically means you have 1 hour until the race start. It's Laz blows. Is it conch or conch? I say conch, but everyone at the race kept saying conch, and I'm like, maybe it's a Tennessee thing. I'm gonna start saying conch. I was looking at you
weird because I was like, I think it's conch.
I always say conch.
I think it is conch.
I think it is conch too. I'm gonna continue to say conch.
Don't say conch. Sounds weird.
It does say weird. So maybe conch is a West Coast thing.
I'm sure somebody from the East Coast will correct us.
Like, nope, it's conch. Maybe someone from Hawaii, because I know Hurt also does the same thing. That says
conch.
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 Well, no, that's actually how it's spelled. Conch. Conch. Okay, conch. Laz blows a conch at any hour between 11 p.m. and 11 a.m. I'm going to say conch.
Conch is wrong. Totally conch.
I'm saying conch.
Conch. Shell.
A giant seashell with a little embouchure or a little mouthpiece. So between 11 p.m. and 11 a.m., Laz can blow the conch, which signifies you have 1 hour until the race start. The race start is signified when Laz lights his cigarette at the yellow gate. All none. So Gary was kind of running around with his head cut off on Friday, trying to get everything together. We have to go over all of his gear. He's anticipating doing a certain amount of calories per loop, kind of has everything laid out. This year, he traveled with a lot of options, food-wise, drink-wise. I think he had multiple types of bars in case he wanted some sort of nutritional bars and fruit chews and different brands of goo type.
Options of everything.
Options of everything.
Yeah.
Which he kind of had that at Wonderland, but I think Wonderland was much more of a, once he got on his track, he just stuck with that.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the options at the first day, but then he was just kind of stuck with sushi and
until the end, freezies.
Yeah, freezies. Freezies is basically what survived. And then same with Hurt. Hurt, he was ice cream man for half the race.
Thomas Gar goes, you don't pronounce lunch lunk.
I like that.
But I guess conch is spelled differently.
Yeah, you don't spell lunch lonk. Lunch.
Focus is off?
Focus is off. No, I don't think so. It looks good here. Fairly crisp. And I have focus as non-automatic. It should be super sharp. Super sharp.
Super sharp.
We may have gotten a bit of internet lag or something. I don't know. That's probably the other thing I can think of. Okay. So Gary's running around, head chopped off. Typical. This is totally normal Gary before a race, especially something that he's very nervous about. He was very nervous.
And also, like, the vibe around the whole campsite was pretty tense. So you have all the runners there. When we first arrived, so nobody had their bibs yet. Nobody had access to the master map yet. People were kind of like huddled in their campsites, kind of doing their own things with their maps or with the people that, that were sharing, their stories or their information and helping each other. It felt very tense, I guess,
As someone who's never been there, I felt a little out of place purely because I do have a larger social media following, and a part of me kind of wanted to separate myself from that for a second. I didn't want to show up and be the guy that's going to tweet a lot, or the guy that's going to post all the photos, or the guy that's going to give away what it is. There's no secrets that, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, there's all these secrets that I know. I know nothing. But the reality is, Barkley is such a special thing for those who have been participating for so long, for so many years. And now there is so much attention on it because it is such a interesting cast of characters and an interesting event that is extremely difficult, that really it is by far the only event that I have seen push a human literally to their limit. I have never, ever witnessed this before, and we've seen a lot of races. It is absolutely incredible, and we'll get to that here in a little bit too. So Friday, I agree. I feel like the campground was super tense. People are former runners are chatting, and experiences and stories are being shared, but on a level of like, I can't wait to hear your story. I'm also waiting to hear if I can get my bib yet, or if I can see the master map, because none of the runners have any idea what the map is. Every year it changes. Every year it gets harder.
And it also had the air of like, people didn't know when the race was going to start.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, people trying to get prepared without being over prepared too early and trying to get organized, and you know, it felt different.
It felt different, but also a bit like you understand it because these people are about to go out and to literally risk their lives because they're going out into woods that no other people, like, we don't know the map. We can't go out there. We can't follow any of the terrain that's out there. We basically, the map is off limits. The woods are off limits other than like designated trails that Laz has said you can hike up these trails and that sort of thing. So they're on their own, and they have to self-sustain for as long as it takes. If they get lost and they end up 20 miles off course, it's their responsibility to get back to civilization. It's their responsibility to get back to the campground, or to figure out a ride, or to figure out how to get a hold of the chopper. You know, I can't. I believe that there's probably a safety net there, of like a rescue chopper if you don't show up after 60 hours. But that is a long time. That is nearly 3 full days of you being out there all on your own. You better have your shit together and know what you're doing. Okay, so there's definitely that tension in the air of people about to embark on such a journey. It isn't until late that afternoon that the map is finally
first.
Yeah, bibs. People get their bibs, which is their first chance to see the number that they have to get. Oh, it's revealed that there is also this year, which is pretty freaking amazing. A blind runner ran Barkley this year. I believe she has 8% sight. Absolutely incredible. She was allowed to run with a guide, but they are essentially one person. So if one person has to drop, they both drop. That is what I was told. I believe that is in fact the case. Her name is Rhonda Marie Avery. Yeah. And incredibly kind, incredibly nice. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine doing this myself with all, you know, with sight and with the ability to see the map and kind of know where I'm going and that sort of thing. I can't even fathom doing it with 8% sight. Unbelievable. So there was a book out there that had Braille, which I thought was hilarious. It was a Braille book. And so Laz kind of screwed everybody over trying to figure out which page number would be theirs, right? Based off their number, because they have to pull the pages and that kind of thing. Everyone gets their bibs. Later that afternoon, everyone gets the master map. They basically, I don't think they have a time limit. They basically have until the conch is blown.
Yeah, the map is put out, and then you can go up
and copy it.
Look and copy.
And try to collect as much information from it as possible. So at this point, bets are being placed. Bets are being placed on when the race is going to start. I predicted it was going to be a early morning start. I was like 1:30, man. Last year, it started somewhere around 11:30, I believe, something like that. It was morning, 11:30 a.m. was the race start. So in my mind, I'm like, he wouldn't do that again. He's going to go opposite. He's going to go 1:30 a.m. Saturday morning. And you thought it was?
I thought it was going to be a 5:30 a.m. start. So 4:30 a.m. blow. Gary
was in line with me. Yeah. So Gary was like, I'm going to lay my head down and the conch is going to get blown at. Basically we all went to bed after the sun went down. By bed I mean we laid in our tents because there is no way you're sleeping that night. There's no way. As a runner, I can't even fathom knowing you're about to embark on such an adventure, but you don't know when. In the next 12 hours you are going to leave. I don't think Gary slept a wink. I'm pretty sure he was restless the entire night. The conch was blown at 10:43 the next morning.
9:43 the next morning for a 10:43 start.
Yes, I'm sorry. 9:43 conch, 10:43 a.m. start.
This is after like all the runners are kind of up, wandering around.
Everyone's
up.
Like
7 a.m. Like everybody was up, and it was kind of like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They still haven't, Yeah.
And this is also when it was pretty obvious that there was a lot of press, a lot of cameras, a lot of what I can imagine isn't normally at Barkley. You can tell by some of the older guys getting pushed out of, seeing Laz go and pick up the conch. I imagine is a very special moment for a lot of those who have run Barkley in the past. The veterans who have been out there and spent days on those trails or lost in the woods or injured, that sort of thing. sharing their stories with each other and helping each other navigate those woods, being pushed out by media. It was pretty difficult to see. I understand media needs to get their shot and media needs to tell their story, and media has one chance to tell this story about what the Barkley is. The larger media outlets that were there never cover this sort of thing, and it is so weird and different to them that they want to capture these weird moments that they've seen in the documentary or that they've heard about, like the conch being blown, like this is weird, this. So they want to capture it, but it was just standing back, like standing 20 feet outside of that circle and just seeing the horde congregate. Laz could literally stand up and 50 people would like grab their cameras and like film him for the next 3 minutes. He was going to grab a cheese puff, right. Like he was going to grab a snack. It was weird. And we have never been there before, but we could still feel the weirdness.
I had like, as much as saying like, oh, I get it. Like it's media, they're doing their job, or they have one chance to get their story. I had really mixed feelings on everything that was going on, because I felt like some of the film crews were respectful and kind of understood the community and understood what they were there for. Some media had like zero clue about what the race was and what the race was about. And I felt like some of them were kind of intrusive and disrespectful.
Yeah,
and I don't like seeing that It was interesting. Yeah.
And as soon as the drone came out, that's kind of when it was like, well.
Somebody just talked about you launching the drone. The drone that was mentioned in one of the Barkley Twitter feeds had nothing to do with that.
I brought mine because I wanted to shoot the mountains separately on a different day, away from the course entirely. I opened the box once on Monday. I did have a memory card. Didn't get any shots. 0 shots. And I am happy about that. The universe was telling me, no, bro. And I didn't. There was a drone flying over camp. Did someone say that someone said it was me?
No. Well, somebody said, oh, and then you launched your drone or something like that.
Nope.
I don't know where it was.
No.
We definitely didn't. And, Ethan talked about doing it. And if we were going to put it up, it was going to be far removed from the actual race.
Wouldn't have been
far removed from any actual people. I was in the ladies' room at the campground at some point. The ladies' room had skylights, and I heard zzz.
Yeah.
And I looked up to see the drone fly over the skylight of the ladies' room in the campsite.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting conversation around camp, that's for sure. Okay.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, long-winded. Wow, guys, it's what sleep deprivation does. Okay, so Gary gets up. He's at this point turning into Gary the Machine. He's totally in the zone, grabbing what he needs to grab. He's getting ready to get up and get out. Jared Campbell and Gary, I think, had a couple conversations beforehand. Gary really was just like, Jared, I'd love to hang with you. I want to have them both on the show because they're both very different. That can
tell their story.
Oh, they can tell their story far better than we can. So I'm not even going to attempt it. I just know that Jared is an incredibly kind and loving human being. You can tell purely because he was working with Gary to get Gary a finish, and Gary was basically, they were working together for 4 loops, 100% together. They came in together, they left together. They had the gentleman's like, Gary came in and was like, Jared has helped me this entire day on the 4th loop. Jared has helped me the entire day. Jared gets to choose which direction he wants to go. I will go the opposite direction. And Jared chose the direction that he thought might have allowed Gary a better opportunity. Like these kind of things, like these incredible relationships between these two guys that you only witness as a spectator, as a crew member. And you're just like, holy crap, these guys are suffering so much together for 60 hours. But yet they're like, no, you go. No, you go. No, you go. Being just super, super kind. Being at that gate and watching the 40 runners stand near it is a pretty incredible thing, because you don't know what they're about to embark on. I have no idea what those trails are like, what the off-trail sections are like, or what these there's a lot of specifically named items on the course that are well known by the veterans, and I know nothing about them. I don't know what they look like. I've never touched them. but they all have that, and you can tell that they're about to embark on that journey where they get to see all that stuff. And it was a pretty incredible moment.
Mm-hmm.
So once Laz lights the cigarette and they all take off, that's when we're like, oh, now we don't have anything to do for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours because you don't get to see him ever.
It's a lot. It's way different than a typical
Yeah.
marathon, ultra marathon, trail race, anything that we've ever been at. There's no tracking. There's no aid stations. There's no, checking in with the aid station, see if your runner's number has come through. There is nothing.
Nothing. The only thing you get is if you hike up to the fire tower, which is a common destination for the crews to go up and to just kind of watch the runners come up. You're not allowed to touch or to give any sort of information to the runners. You're not allowed to hand them anything or take anything. Basically, you could just yell at them.
And Laszlo's pretty much like, if I could tell you not to cheer for them, I would, but I can't stop you from cheering.
Yeah, which is, I'm like, I totally get it, man. The reason is because I just gathered from Laz, like our conversations are very brief emails, is that this race is about the individual experience. It's not about any human interaction with the outside world at all.
Yeah, it's supposed to be all about that solo, lonely journey.
And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And Laz does everything in his power to make sure that is what you get. So we were able to get up there and we went up to the fire tower. That was kind of our first opportunity to get away from the campground and to actually see runners come through. And we sat up there not very long, but it is beautiful up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good hike. It's a good 5 miles up, and I think there's a couple of alternative ways down that we took. But it's incredible views. You can see the Smoky Mountains off to the east, and the terrain is it's rugged and beautiful. It all looks the same. So that's the craziest thing to me.
We talked about this a lot. Because for a race that has no markings. You really have to know the terrain. Yeah.
The topographical map, you can get a topographical map, but it really doesn't help you much if all you're looking for is like land formations, because everything begins to look the same, even just hiking through it.
The color of everything was very much the same tones.
Browns, darker browns, lighter browns, the speckling of green. Even the rocks are the same color as the leaves that cover the ground.
The ridges all were kind of the same. But just maybe slightly different.
Yeah.
I can see how it'd be so easy to get lost, turned around, And
the weather was perfect. Here's the thing. The weather was shitty when we landed. It was so good all weekend.
Which probably pissed Laz off.
I'm sure Laz was like, ugh, the weather's too good. There was no rain. There was no clouds. It was crystal. It got warm on Monday. It was like perfect during the weekend. But runners were still talking, like when they would come in and they would tap out, they would still talk about how I didn't know where I was. I got lost. I missed the turn from the book and like went down 600 feet this way, like a straight drop 600 feet, turned around and did that same 600 feet 6 times. Like you hear these stories and you're just like, what? You would think it seems so easy, but the people who are telling you these stories are really good athletes, really good orienteers, and they got lost. So that's what's kind of fucked up, is that these are really strong people who have put in years of training, and yet they still went off course. They got lost. They spent 32, some cases, I believe the new record was broken for the longest first lap.
That was like 32
one loop.
Hours?
31 hours and
31
59
hours.
minutes. That loop, it does not count because the time limit cutoff was 12 hours, I believe. I believe it's 12 or 12:40 or something like that. 31 hours. Maybe it's 13:20 for this. I don't know. 31 hours and 59 minutes. And they came back smiling from ear to ear, thanking Laz for the experience. They were out there without food, without water for 8 to 10 hours, 0 calories. But yet they came in and they thanked Laz. I can't fathom that. I can't fathom that. And there was no way to know how many miles they went off course or how many feet they went off course. There's no way to know because there was zero tracking. There's no GPS. Absolutely outlawed. I think that is so awesome. I think that's so awesome.
I think it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's also terrifying. So we're standing at the top of Fire Tower. There's a big group of people. The first group that comes up is some incredible runners. I believe it was
a lead pack of 4 men.
Yeah, it was Gary, Jared, Alex, and
Adam.
I'm sorry, Adam. I said Alex. It was
AT.
Adam, AT. They were all separated by maybe a couple seconds. They fucking plowed up that hill. It was nasty.
Like, you know, I think we both posted pictures of Rat Jaw. It
doesn't do justice.
These men were literally bent in half, hands on knees or hands on poles, bent in half. Like, that's how steep that is. And it doesn't look steep. It looks like a little like.
Oh, I mean, even some of the comments on my Instagram photo of that place, where people are like, "Oh, this looks fun. We have steeper stuff here," and I'm like you guys don't get it. This hill it's crazy. You walk up to the ledge and you look basically straight down, and it kind of swoops, and then you hear a veteran go, "Oh no, this isn't the steep part. The steep part's actually just around that corner when you actually have to climb, you know, hands over knees and stuff." And they also had mowed the briars this year, so there were no briars on that hill. But it did not stop anybody from getting cut, because it was not the only place on the course where briars existed. It was pretty incredible to see them plow up that hill so quickly on the first loop. So they went up, they got the book there, and then they headed back out. And there's only one other place that we could watch them, but if we went there, we would not have been able to catch them finish the loop. So we did not go to the other location called New River. We ended up going back to the campground and waited. And Gary and Jared came back in 8 hours. And I think, I keep wanting to say KT. TK, what's his name?
Who?
The guy that was with the group of 4. It was
AT.
If you want to say TK.
I keep saying AT.
No, it's AT. It's AT. So they all kind of came in within the same time frame, right around 8 hours. They just blasted through that first loop really fast, and they all look great.
It was Gary,
Jared, AT, and Adam. Adam was really close.
Of them came in first.
Yeah.
AT came in after.
Yeah, AT came just after. But it was really cool to see Gary come in. We were not an efficient machine that first turnaround. So Gary came in, like, you don't know what you're going to see. In any ultra, 100-miler or whatever, you don't know what you're going to see that first aid station when a runner comes in. They're either going to be a little bit off the rails, a little bit worn out. In this case, you really don't know what you're going to see, because they're either broken or, you know, they're getting it done. I don't know. Gary, Jared, everyone was coming in completely coherent, having a blast. Jared is so focused. So Jared went to his wife, Mindy, super sweet. They are basically a dialed-in machine, and Gary came to us, and we started taking care of Gary. We were a little bit disorganized. I think we didn't realize just how quickly they wanted to turn around. He said 10 minutes. Wasn't it 10 minutes on the first lap? Yeah,
the time in and out was a lot quicker than it should have been.
Yeah, he basically said, we're turning around. Jared and I we want to be back out in 10 minutes. So we bring Gary into the tent. We like swap his bag. We do the bladder swap and get him water, get him food, get him all this stuff. I think at this point, one of his poles had broken already. So we gave him a short pole. I think one of Linda's poles. So we had 2 poles like this, completely off. So while he was on the second loop, I could fix the broken pole. All sorts of craziness, hoopla. Before we know it, the 10 minutes is up. We look out of the tent, and Jared's just kind of nonchalantly like putting on his backpack.
Jared was ready at like 7 minutes.
He was ready easily 7 minutes. He'd even showered. I feel like he ran into the bathroom and took a shower. Jared took 2 showers during the course of the race, during two of the loop refills. He basically had time to go into the bathroom, take a quick shower, and come back out, get his stuff. Meanwhile, we're like hustling around Gary, like putting food into his mouth and doing all this kind of stuff. Gary was like dialed, though. He knew exactly what he needed. He knew exactly what he wanted, grabbed it, and then they were off. And it was really freaking quick. I mean, they were already out. And the first 2 loops go the same direction clockwise. So they were gone. It was that fast. And it really was, we knew it was going to be a long time before we were going to see him again. They left at 10:43. That was an 8-hour lap. So it was just before 7 o'clock that they took off.
Yeah, they left, I think 7:07 that night.
Yeah. And we knew if it was going to be another 8-hour loop, which is highly unlikely, but it was going to be fast, because now that the sun was setting, they were going to be doing a lot of navigating in the dark. We anticipated them coming in probably like 2 or 3. 2:30 is kind of what we were predicting. So we got up, we went to bed at like 10. No one was really able to sleep because a lot of people started to come in. I think there was our first tap out at some point in there. Someone not able to finish the first loop came in and tapped out. So there wasn't much sleep being had, because there's still a lot of energy around the campground. People telling stories, fire being had, and like people eating around the fire and stories. It was just pretty incredible. And we woke up at like 1:30. I think we set our alarm for 1:30, so about an hour of sleep. And Gary wasn't able. They didn't come in again until 4:30. What is the math on that? It was a 10-hour loop. So 4:30, I think is So I think it was close to 4:30. And Gary and Jared rolled on in looking strong, just totally strong, dialed. And this one they wanted to, this wasn't the sleep loop, but this was going to be a 15-minute transition. I think they wanted 15 minutes. Basically did the exact same thing with Gary.
I think they did 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was still pretty quick. Much more succinct this time. We had everything ready. We had, his hot food ready in case he wanted hot food, his cold food ready. We had stuff to swap. I had fixed the pole. Everything was ready to go, and we got him out of there really, really quickly. But the second that Gary stepped out, Jared was kind of standing there waiting, like just. I don't know how he managed to do his transition so smoothly. He is just dialed. He has this thing down.
Very efficient.
Very efficient. So they left on their now third loop, and we knew if Gary could finish 3 loops, that is a huge accomplishment.
So the third loop is their first loop in the opposite direction.
Counterclockwise.
So they go clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise, and then they go off in opposite directions after that.
Well into the dark. This time they're getting a bit more sleep deprived since they've been up throughout the entire night. They're not going to rely on their headlamps as much because they're going to go into the daytime. It is the reverse loop. There's zero fog to deal with. We've heard in some years the fog can get so thick you can't see your own feet. I can't imagine navigating in that, having no reference to where you are. Unbelievable. They went the opposite direction, and they were chatting, looking super strong. And trying to think. So this was now Sunday morning. What did we do Sunday? What did we do Sunday? Everything. I'm so sorry. Everything, like all the time is now mushing together after the second loop. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't go back up to the fire tower. We didn't go to New River. Are you not remembering either?
No, so I'm looking at you blankly right now. Is this when we went into the store?
We had to. Yes.
We tried. So we tried to go to New River. We did try to go to New River. Remember the car accident?
Yeah, that's right. We anticipated going out to New River to see them cross.
Not our car accident.
Not our car accident. New River is it's a road crossing. It's the only road that they cross. Laz had said it's a great place to film because you can see runners basically cross a road. However, no one knows where it is on the course. We don't know if it's early in the course or late on the course. And I believe that changes every year. So we drove out there, and there was an accident on the road, and a giant motorcycle gang was back there, and the whole turnout had it was all full of motorcycle gangs and ambulances and stuff. So we were like, probably not the best thing to just kind of hang out here.
Yeah, so that's what we did on Sunday. We drove out there and we went to the store
and the market.
And we went to get coffee,
had to get food.
Trying to find gluten-free anything
for Gary. There's
hard.
Not a lot of gluten-free stuff in the backcountry of Tennessee. Poor Gary wasn't able to get his sandwiches. He was really loving those sandwiches.
Yeah.
So we got back to camp kind of around the time that when we started to prepare to see them again, finishing their third lap. Sure enough, they roll in together now 12 hours. So they finished the third loop in 12 hours. That's 8 p.m. Is that math right? Wow, time really freaking blurs, guys.
So loop 4 was a good loop that we could sleep during the nighttime because we knew they were going to be gone from so it was 8 p.m. reasonable hours. I can't remember the.
You guys have to help us with the map right now. With the math, guys.
Okay. Anyways,
let's say 8 p.m. Gary and Jared roll in again. Man, I don't know how they do this. Because at this point, we're seeing so much carnage from other runners come in and tap out. The bugle is now being blown fairly frequently.
Yeah, at this point, almost everybody's out.
Yeah,
I think
there's very few.
I don't know.
There's a lot of people that were still out on their third that took that third loop a lot longer and weren't able to complete the fun run.
Within the time limit.
Within the time limit.
7 or 9 people out at that time or something. I can't remember.
But a lot of people had already come back to camp and couldn't do the second loop or got 2 or 3 pages into the second loop. One of Gary's friends, George, a fantastic guy. We saw him go from I do not want to go back out there. 3 minutes later, all right, I'm going to go back out. I got to go do a couple
George
more
was one of my
books.
favorite stories.
So great. What a rad guy.
He's done the race a couple times now. And yeah, just as Ethan was saying, he came in and like looked and felt like death, didn't want to go out, felt like he was done. But within like minutes,
turned around.
It just changed. And then he was like ready to get out there again. It was really impressive.
So Gary and Jared roll in after loop 3, again looking completely strong. Now starting, am I in the right place? Starting loop 4. Loop 4 is again going to be counterclockwise in the night now completely, essentially, because it's 8 p.m.-ish by the time they roll in.
And that we could actually sleep.
This was their sleep lap. So they decided to take some sleep. Both of them had agreed, let's do an hour and a half, hour and a half-ish. I forget specifically what it was, but an hour and a half break in camp where they would spend 45 minutes of that or an hour of it sleeping. I'm pretty sure Jared managed to get some sleep. I don't think Gary slept a wink. I think Gary came in and was like tossy and turny for the most part.
Is this a lot? There's dogs barking. The bugle was playing. There was car alarms going on.
It was nonstop. It was nonstop. I mean, it's 8, 9 p.m. You would think it would be quiet and they could sleep, but yeah, I felt terrible. Meanwhile, we're just like, do we tell people to be quiet? I mean, I don't know, but I think that's just part of it. I think it's part of the experience. Like, if you sleep in camp, you better deal with the camp noise. So Gary did not get much sleep. You could tell he was tossing and turning. But when he had to get up, there was no complaining. Like, this is what's crazy is he just got up. He's like, all right, I got to get up. He put on his new clothes and like got ready for his 4th loop now. 4th loop being an incredible achievement. Fun run now done. Fun run is 3 loops. Going out on the 4th loop. From what I've been told, that's very rare for a virgin Barkley runner.
Right.
And again, Jared just was like, let's do it together. So they did the counterclockwise loop again together, and it was pretty cool to see him go off. At this point, we knew it was going to be an all-nighter. We knew this was our only opportunity to sleep. So we managed to get a couple of hours of sleep before we had to wake up at like 4 or something like that to start getting ready.
A little bit. I think we were all really anxious because the next loop would have been loop 5.
Yeah, exactly. Because if he finished loop 4 and manages to get out on loop 5, there's a real chance that Gary could finish Barkley. This is also when a lot of guys and girls who had been out there for so long started to come in. So the bugle was playing a lot, but also we were hearing applause and stuff from people finishing their 3rd loop, their fun run, and all sorts of really incredible stories of people who had been out there for so long and throughout the night. And this is when the record had been broken of the longest first loop of 31:59. Just incredible.
Paula Adams says, y'all are like little kids who need a nap. You look so tired.
Oh, cute. That's us.
Yeah, we need like a 24-hour nap.
We need a 24-hour nap. I can only imagine what the runners need. 100-hour nap, something like that.
Anyways, rolling along.
Yeah, so the stories were really, really fantastic that were coming out through the night here, and much respect to anybody who managed this many laps. Are you pushing me along?
Moving you along.
All right.
I mean, like we're going in circles a little, like tiny little circles.
I don't even know where we are right now.
They're out on loop 4. We're trying to sleep. It's nighttime.
Well, let's just cut to the chase. They got to loop 5. They came back in. They start loop 5, again, looking fresh. At this point, this is when the not gentleman's bet, but like they were very kind. Jared basically got to choose which direction to travel first because per tradition, 2 runners cannot travel the same direction. The first person to leave camp gets to choose which direction they would like to choose, and then it alternates from then on out. So Jared chose to go clockwise, allowing Gary to go counterclockwise, which is the same direction he had just traveled twice on his with Jared. So this 5th time would hopefully allow Gary to already have that ingrained. It was also going to be entirely during the day. So Gary was really stoked on that. Jared basically kind of gave him a hey man, I want you to finish, get it done. Let's go to the same. You can go the same direction you had just done twice. You should be able to get this done. Meanwhile, Jared already knows the course really, really well and was going the opposite direction. So they did. They split. They shook hands. They parted ways and they went the opposite direction.
That was one of the hardest moments. Like, I feel like emotionally for me,
watching Gary go off alone,
but like watching them two like go off on their own.
They've been working so closely all day.
And I remember kind of talking with Linda a little bit about it and watching her watch him, you know, go off on his own. And I mean, he looked great. He looked strong, but it's like so much can happen.
The fact they look so strong after 4 laps of this thing, which had been tearing people up, is I don't get it. I don't get the strength. I don't get it. It's another level. Yeah. Because moments after this, an hour, about 50 minutes after Jared went clockwise and Gary went counterclockwise, John Kelly coming down the road towards the gate with about 13 minutes-ish, 10 minutes to 13 minutes to spare before he had to finish loop 4, came in finishing loop 4. And this is the sight that kind of has changed me. It was a bit terrifying. The image of a man so broken and so lost and spent, literally dragging his poles by the straps as he's zombie walking into camp, as people are yelling at him, you've got, 10 minutes, 9 minutes, and he's, 200 yards down the trail, but you don't even know if he's going to be able to travel that such short distance in those 9 minutes because he's moving that slow. Gaunt, like nobody's vision. Home. Nobody is home. Checked out days ago. Like one of the scariest things I've ever seen. Anyone who's never seen that before, this is not your 100-mile ultra stare into the distance or breakdown or any of that kind of stuff. This is I have never seen this. I have never seen it in my entire life.
It was really scary.
It was scary for us.
My eyes got teary, and
the Barkley veterans, apparently it's totally normal.
This was the coolest part, I think. Like one of the coolest parts of base camp was watching the veterans, like kind of all gather around.
John Kelly still had the dexterity to get to the gate, touch the gate, as he's just basically floating on the gate, pulls out his pages and hands them to Laz. So Laz can count the pages. At that point, once the pages have been approved, he is free to then be guided by his crew and by friends and stuff like that. He can't be touched or anything like that before that moment. He gets around the gate. I think his family was also there, but the Barkley veterans get around him. They all change his clothes. They cover him with sunscreen. Meanwhile, he's literally sitting in a chair, just doing this, like looking into nothing, as everything else is being handled around him. It was one of the coolest things I have ever seen. All the veterans are like, normal, happens every Barkley. This sort of thing, it just happens. You got to get him back out there. He's got a time limit. He has to. So this makes perfect sense to me. I was like, well, why can't he just be done now? It's because once he says he's done, he's done. But if he can start loop 5, he can sleep anywhere along loop 5 and just regather himself, sleep for 4 hours, and then start and try to finish it. Like as long as he starts loop 5 in the right amount of time, he has the potential to finish it. He just has to start it. He has no potential if he sits there and just doesn't get it done. So that's why all the veterans are like, we got to get you out. So to see them get him up, walk him to the gate, he manages to take his own bib, and he starts walking out of camp on his own. Like the applause and the cheers were incredible. And then it turned to silence as you see him barely 20 feet away continue to walk, get about 100 feet, 200 feet away, go to the side of the trail, start walking down into a riverbed, and everyone's like, oh no, he thinks he's somewhere else on the trail, or he's hallucinating. But then he takes off his pack, puts it down, and just lays down on his pack. He knew exactly what he was doing, but he was so far out of his own mind that he just knew he needed to sleep. So he walked up a couple 100 yards and slept. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. I didn't get a chance to meet the guy after the race either because he was still recovering. I imagine he was still sleeping. But John, if you ever watched this, you were the biggest badass that I have ever witnessed in any ultra or any race ever. I have never seen what I saw that night. And you, my friend, or that day, you deserve all the accolades, the applause, everything.
I would love to hear his story.
Yeah.
Actually.
See, let's give him a couple days.
Yeah, I'm like, that
maybe
would
we
be
can
a
get him
good
on the
story
show.
to hear.
Maybe we can get him on with Jared and Gary, see if we can get them all three on, because they were the only three to start Luke 5. At this point, we see him, and we got to get into a car. We got to get to New River. We thought we were going to be able to see the two, Jared and Gary, cross. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, how great it would be if they cross at the same time and like high five, and we know that they're in a race, right? So we get out to the New River destination, which is a good 30-minute drive. We wait there. We hear Jared stomping through the bushes, totally focused, crosses the road, doesn't say a word, gets up to the other side and off into the woods. He just was like man on a mission. None of us realized. All we had to do was ask him, did you pass Gary yet? Because that would have told us immediately the kind of where Gary was, if we had already missed him or if he hadn't arrived yet. So meanwhile, we're waiting out there where there's no signal, waiting for Gary to arrive. We wait for hours, 5 hours. I think we waited there, and Gary never showed up, and we were getting no text messages because there's no signal. It got to the point where Matt Trappy had to drive up to where he could get signal. Billy Simpson, legend in ultra running, incredible dude. Also out at Barkley, has run it before, was texting from the top of Fire Tower that Gary came up, was hallucinating terribly, had sat down, was not wanting to continue, but everyone convinced him to continue. So he got up and managed to leave Fire Tower. So when Matt Trappy got that text message, that meant that Gary was still on his way to where we were at New River. So we were like, well, shit, we guess we have to wait. So we wait and we wait and we wait. Another film crew shows up because they also got the same information. So they were waiting for Gary. Maybe an hour later, we're just like throwing rocks at trees, as people do. A minivan starts driving down the road.
I'm like, that looks like Linda's van.
That does look like Linda's van. That's not Linda. That's Gary driving.
We all went, oh.
It was one of the saddest things we've seen.
It was not only sad, but it was the most surreal thing, because I personally had been standing in a spot looking up into the trees for hours.
The same brown.
Just kind of waiting to see Gary's blue hat come bobbing out of the forest.
Yeah. Gary was driving a minivan from camp. He had managed to go up to Fire Tower and back down. I think at some point he had just decided, once he saw Jared, because they crossed around that point, Gary had gone off course because of sleep deprivation, because he didn't sleep the night before the race or any night during the race. And I believe he didn't even sleep the night before that, because I can imagine nerves. He told us he was on somewhere around 100-hour sleep deprivation, which caused him a very simple navigational error. I will allow Gary to talk more about that when we have him on the show, which will happen. So I don't want to talk too specifically about just hearsay. Regardless, Gary decided to hitch a ride back to camp. He got back to camp. None of us were there. So
him and Linda came
they saw each other. Yeah.
Rescue us.
So he and Linda came out to rescue us. And that was a very weird moment. Very sad, but also at the same point, like you can't be sad for someone who completed 4 loops plus.
He did so much more than
much more
than most people, most humans would be able to accomplish on their virgin year or at all. There's people that go there multiple years and don't get that far.
Unbelievable. We all hopped into the van, got back to camp, and we saw Jared finish with minutes to spare, about 30 minutes to spare on the total time cutoff of 60 hours. I think it was 59:30-ish. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jared is next level. He is the first third-time finisher of this race, the only finisher of the race this year, which guarantees that Laz will make it difficult next year, more difficult.
He makes it more difficult
every year.
Yet the distance of the course doesn't change.
Yeah, it's so crazy to think that Jared has now finished 3 years, getting harder each time. That is a pretty incredible feat. So congratulations to Jared Campbell. Congratulations to everyone who even started that damn thing.
And to Jared's wife,
and
just like
Bindy's great.
Just like a efficient crewing machine.
Also want to make sure I shout out Ty Draney, Leon Lutz, Heather Anderson. They were all really awesome. We got to talk to a lot of them as well. Crew as well as runners. Ty was really great. Managed to finish the fun run, but just couple hours over the cutoff. with Jason. Oh my God. Yeah, Jason Poole. I was going to say Coop, but it's Poole. Jason Poole, and I forget the one other athlete that was with them that managed to finish it as well. But really cool to hear all these stories. And there was a lot of talk this weekend, not necessarily there, but on social media about how people are disappointed that media is there. I think the consensus is the race will always be the race because Laz is the race. Laz controls who runs the race. How you apply the application process is still a secret. So while the media might show up, the runners and the racers are the ones that are meant to be there. They are determined to be there. They are trained to be there. They will continue the traditions of this race as long as Laz is around. And it was really, really cool to witness just that family. Those who have run it before, decades ago, those who are thinking about running it in the future, or those who ran it that day, those days. It was really cool to see that. And there is a gatekeeper. It's not like an ultra sign up where anyone can just show up. Someone who's like, I've done a Tough Mudder, I could do Barkleys. No, you can't, because Laz won't let you in.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but I can't imagine. Maybe as like the virgin sacrifice, which would be hilarious. But there is someone there to determine who runs that race, and there is a series of protocols that need to be obeyed. And I feel like the community is pretty good about keeping it internal. So the media might show up maybe for a couple years. Maybe they'll lose interest, and maybe the race will go back to normal.
And some of the vets were talking about, regardless of all the media and all the buzz around the camp, the race experience is still the exact same it is for the runner, because they're out there, they're by themselves, they're experiencing all of that without the media encroaching in that.
I posted a picture to Instagram with Gary Robbins and Jared Campbell. They were communicating. Yeah, it's called talking. They were talking after Jared had just finished about kind of their experience together. And there are a lot of cameras around there. But one thing I loved about the photo is that the cameras didn't fucking matter at that moment, because Jared and Gary were sharing the same moment that they had spent 50 hours sharing alone on the trails before. So yeah, I totally agree. The race experience for the runners really doesn't change. The campground experience is what changes. As long as the camera crews don't fucking go out into the trail, then everything should stay the same. It was an honor to be there, to be totally honest.
It really was. And I think that's like the best way to describe it. Like, I know it might sound cliche, and I think we both used the term that it was an honor to be there, but it really was an honor to be there.
We are sharing with you a bit of our experience. I don't think that's inappropriate. There are some protocols that we're definitely trying to follow, as far as like not sharing names, not sharing any information about the race, like specifics, especially stuff that we don't know, or stuff that we would even like try to predict. We're just not going to share it publicly. I was able to film. I was not able to film on course. That is not allowed. There is a story there. Gary is just an incredible athlete. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. Laz, I have asked Laz to okay the finished product before it even becomes public, and Laz prefers that. So I don't know what or if anything will come together anytime soon. I'm still undecided on kind of what we're going to do. However, we did shoot some behind the scenes stuff too, just of like us around camp, like
with our cheese platter,
in the Walmart parking lot, stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of fun. So I'll probably be editing that together and give it to the Patreon crew or something like that. But that's pretty much it. I have so much respect for those who towed that line. It's one of those things when you stand there and you watch it, you go, maybe I can do that someday. And then you see that crew come back from a loop just wrecked, and you go, oh, nope, maybe I can't. So I'll never run Barkleys. I just will never say I never will. But I never will.
I'll never run Barkley.
There's a fun run, the Fall Classic, that we think we should do first, which I totally agree. But it is such an incredible experience, and we were honored to be there. We thank everyone that is a part of that race and part of its history for allowing us to spectate. We got some really great stories, and people were just telling us some really amazing things. The human body and the human mind are capable of far more than I ever knew. We witnessed it firsthand. And if there's anything that we can relate to that, it's you might feel pain and suffering. You might think that your race is going terribly or your training is going terribly. I guarantee you it can be so much worse. And you can continue to push on even through that. You have so much left in you, far more than you ever knew. And it sounds cliche, but holy shit, did we witness it this weekend. Bar none. We're both going on maybe 6 hours of sleep total for the last 7 days. We made the show about 45 minutes longer than I thought we were going to make it. I forget how much I talk when I'm tired or in general.
People keep telling us to have naps.
Yeah.
Do you look that bad?
No, I look that bad. Kim does not.
I'm probably just like...
I'm Chip Gaines. You're Joanna. I always am the ugly one. Yeah, you're always the pretty one. Thank you guys for tuning into tonight's show. This is part 1. I feel like part 2, it's not going to be us. It's going to be the guests who experienced the race firsthand. That is the goal. There's not going to be any post show tonight because I think this show is far too long as it is. If you have any questions or anything like that, shout out on Twitter. Drop us a line on Twitter. Yeah. We'll try to answer as best as possible. If you want to help keep the lights on and the mics hot here, please go to what?
Jen, you asked, does Kim love shiplap? You bet I do.
You bet. Hashtag shiplap. If you want to keep the lights on and the mics hot here and help contribute to the show to make sure that it happens every single week and help videos continue to... Oh, what'd you guys think of the April Fool's video? I didn't even... It basically was an automatic post on Friday. And we were gone, so I haven't read any of the comments. I don't know. It was fun to edit, but a part of me was like, there's going to be haters, man. People just want their Adidas reviews, whatever. If you would like to help contribute to this channel to help us buy dinner and pillows or fund our next travel adventure to Tennessee or beyond, go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner for as little as $1 a month. It helps. It goes a long way. It's a monthly subscription, so you can basically check out at any time. There's no obligation. And there's some perks on the back end. Like I said, there's going to be a behind the scenes video, which I think is super easy to edit. And I think that'll be for the Patreon crew. So if you guys want to jump in there, you'll be able to get that. And new music and all sorts of cool stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I am so sorry that it was a Tuesday night at 6 p.m. and that we are exhausted. I'm so sorry.
You did well.
The camera's still on, right? Was that you just being a supportive wife? You did well.
It's so hot in here that this is not Tennessee. Nighttime weather.
Tennessee, you got some weather shifts. Jeez. 28 degrees or 29 degrees or something in there.
Where can we find you on social media?
The Ginger Runner. Where can we find you? You can answer that question.
Instagram.com/KimberlyDT.
Make sure to add the .com, guys. Instagram.com/KimberlyDT. On Twitter? Twitter.com/milelong_legs. Hashtag sliplap. Sliplap.
I have the giggles. Time to go.
It's definitely time to go. I've got a drone to fly. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific is when the show is. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.